Today I'd like to talk about a very interesting survey that came out recently. It was done by the Pew Research Center. Came out on January 24th of 2024, so just a few weeks ago. And it surveyed those who claim to have no religion. And it took a look at different age groups and really what they feel about this question. It's interesting, and this phenomenon is usually referred to as the nuns. They just don't have any formal religion. It's interesting to see that it's grown from 5% to about 30%, so it's a significant growth in terms of those who don't opt for a particular religion. The general characteristics are that it's a very diverse group, it's a young group, and it's a left-leaning group. 56% believe in a higher power aside from the God of the Bible. So they do ascribe to a higher power, but it is not the God that we traditionally have seen in the Bible. 67% believe that humans have a soul or a spirit. So it's interesting, even though they don't affiliate with a particular religion, they do reflect some of those traditional religious beliefs about the soul and the higher power. Non-human animals and parts of nature also can have spiritual energies. So it's not that they're anti-spiritual in any way. Feelings about religion, really, why do they reject religion? Basically because religion causes divisions and intolerance and encourages superstition and illogical thinking. So because of all of those things, you just can't accept religion because of the negative experiences that flow from religion. And of course, you can understand that. There are some people in religion who are very intolerant of other people. There are divisions back and forth. There are religious people who are very superstitious. And there are religious people who reject any sort of logical thinking or logical approach to reality. So their thinking is, well, why be religious if those are going to be the characteristics? 58% say that religion helps society by giving people meaning and purpose. So we see the nuns as not really anti-religious in that sense. They see that there is some positive good that some religious people do, so they're open-minded in that sense. One of the myths that is frequently promulgated about the nuns is that secularization, the idea of just seeing the important side first, and secularization kind of eliminating any formal approbation for religion or any formal role for religion in public life. And there are some who would say that, well, secularization causes people to be less active civically. They don't get involved as much in helping their fellow man or building up the state. Pew asked in this survey if respondents had volunteered in the past year, if they had voted in recent midterm elections, or if they follow public affairs closely. They found that the rates for nuns on these issues to be similar to those people who have religious affiliation but do not attend religious services. So there was a little bit of a parallel there in terms of their civic engagement. You can question also some of these results in the survey. For example, people say, well, do they believe in the supernatural, or is it all just kind of a natural approach to religion? Example, say someone who sees the stars and has an overwhelming experience of awe, and they call it a higher power. Well, what does that actually mean when you unpack it? You're there at night, you're looking at this awesome sight, or you're seeing the power of the ocean, walking by the sea, and You just feel this tremendous energy, this power, this awe, and you say, oh, this must come from a higher power. Well, are you rejecting the supernatural? Or are you really talking about the supernatural, in other words? So again, you have to unpack this a little bit more to see, well, what actually do the nuns truly believe? So one of the conclusions is that, of course, more research is needed. The nuns, though, are not a cohesive group, and they don't coalesce around a new belief system. So it's not like this is a new movement. It's going to attract a lot of people. It's just really reflective of what people believe about faith today. 17% of the nuns would describe themselves as atheist, 20% agnostic, and 63% will be called nothing in particular. I'm not an atheist. I don't reject God. I'm not an agnostic. I don't think that you can't know if there's a God or not, as the agnostics would say. I just, don't belong to any religious group in particular. The nothing in particular group tends to be less educated, more politically moderate, and more negative about religion. In 1972, this general social survey that surveyed religious attitudes and beliefs among people in the United States found that there were 5% nuns, so a small number. 2007, it had grown to 16%. 2022, it was 30%. And in 2023, it declined slightly to 28%. The nuns are not opposed to religion. They simply care less about it. 81% say religion is not too important or not at all important in their lives. So it's just not an important part of my life. 97% attend religious services a few times a year or not at all. So they aren't very active in terms of church. Maybe some will go occasionally. Others will not attend at all, not even once a year. So what do they believe in? What are their values in life? Well, they place a high value on science. 44% of the nuns say there is a scientific explanation for everything, even if they don't understand how everything works completely, compared with 16% of religiously affiliated Americans. So certainly more of a belief in science than in religion. They think more positively about the good that science has done for us and not so highly about religion. 56% of nuns say that science does more good than harm, compared with 40% of the religiously affiliated who say the same. So again, it would be a kind of a wide difference there. But where do they kind of coalesce together? Interestingly, about the issue of right and wrong. 82% of the nuns and 83% of religiously affiliated say they don't want to hurt people. So there is an ethical code. We don't want to do harm to people. We don't want to hurt people. We want to be helpers. The motivation of logic and reason as key factors when deciding between right and wrong was picked by 82% of the nuns and 79% of the religiously affiliated. So again, logic and reason is a way that we can determine between right and wrong. And that was supported on almost similar numbers. So you can see the ethical basis with the nuns, very similar to the religiously affiliated. You don't want to hurt people, and in determining what is right and wrong, logic, reason is very important. Only 12% of the nuns say that they rely on their religious beliefs to help them determine what is right and wrong. whereas 65% of the religiously affiliated would say, my religious beliefs are important in helping me to determine the path I should follow, what is right and what is wrong. One of the key things that I found in the report in terms of why people would reject religion, 30% of the nuns had bad experiences with religious people. And 47% don't like religious organizations. So what does this tell us? We often hear that the phrase used, they will know we are Christians by our love. They will know we are religious people by our fruits, of how we live our lives, by how we love others, the institutions that we build. Which would say to me that a decent number of nuns, 30%, have had some contact with religious organizations, but those experiences have been negative. So how do we design something that reaches out to the nuns? Well, I would say as I look at this data, the answer seems pretty clear that we design our religion, we shape our religion, we form our religion to live up to what we should be, which is examples of Christ, examples of his life and light to others, that we be welcoming people, that we be non-judgmental people, that we be caring people, that we build institutions that care for others through our efforts, either as a church or through society, to build those institutions that take care of people, that help people. Institutions in terms of education, which the Catholic Church has really a good reputation in terms of institutions of higher learning, certainly. Hospitals, those types of institutions that take care of the hungry and the poor and work for change in our society to help people live more fruitful lives. So I think the pathway is kind of clear here. Some people wonder about the nuns, and is it now are all young people going to desert their faith and move away from the church? I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is how we live our lives as Catholics. And certainly one of the tragedies of the church in recent decades has been the clerical abuse scandal. And that has shown the nuns, I think, that the church cannot be trusted. So how do we regain that trust? We are certainly trying to do that in a better way by how we report abuse, how we screen out for abuse, how we educate against abuse, how we protect our children. I think all of these things are going to take a lot of time. Those who say they don't like religious organizations, many of us in the religious organizations would say, we don't like what has happened in this religious organization. We were appalled by it. We were upset by it. We think it's terrible and awful. And the fact that it's happened, well, many of us have been participating in the Catholic Church and other Christian churches, certainly, and churches of religious groups of other faiths with similar track records on this issue. We'd certainly say that there is much that can be done to reform our own house. So rather than, I think, be critical of the nuns, I think the lesson to be learned is let's live more Christ-like lives. Let's not turn people off and say that 30% have had bad experiences. That's a horrible thing. And let's look within ourselves. And let's make sure that the church we offer to our young people is a church of welcome, is a church that reflects the teachings of Christ, to love our God and to love our sisters and our brothers.